Hey everyone! Welcome. We are here today with the lovely Maddison Michaels with our book club. Oh my goodness, The Mistletoe Mistress was our book of the month.
Cool. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
We're so thankful. And the fact that we were just talking to her about, tell us what day and time it is where you are.
Well, I'm in the future. I have time traveled I am on Monday morning.
Oh gosh, Monday morning.
Oh. Well, hopefully it's not the Monday blues and you're going to have some fun with us.
Yes, right.
That's right.
Megan says, hello, Megan.
Hey, Megan. Hey, Kate.
Hey, Lisa.
Hey, Lisa. Oh, Deborah, hey.
Deborah.
Sock is here. Hey, Sock.
Oh my goodness, so many friends are here joining us. I'm so happy.
So exciting.
Yes, I just want to thank you so much for joining us. And
you'll just hold this.
Yeah, thank you, Bea.
Maybe I could just put it back here.
My pleasure.
I don't know if it'll turn off.
So for our book club, we usually, our audience votes. We'll kind of pitch some books every time we have a reading sprint for the next month. And yours obviously won for December. So this is the first read by you that I've ever read, and I really enjoyed it. So I'm just so grateful that our book club chose, the Mistletoe Mistress.
Yes. Oh, yes.
I'm thrilled that you love this story. So that's really cool.
Yay.
Yeah. And then I'm going to go ahead and put it up here. But
perfect.
Do you want to share anything about like how the Mistletoe Mistress came about? Because I know it seems like it might be the prequel to your first series, right?
Yeah. So I was with a group of writers, and they were talking about wanting to do a Christmas anthology, and I was like, oh, I'd love to do an anthology. But at that stage, my books are quite big. Like my first book, Devilish Duke, that's I think about 115,000 words. So the anthology had to be, I think it was between about 25,000 to 40,000 words. And I've never written such a short story. And I was like, oh, okay, this will be a really good challenge. Yeah. And I had in the background that I really wanted to do this prequel to the Devilish Duke about one of his friends, and that's how this came about. And I thought, oh, what a great way to introduce Devlin in a very brief way, but also go into Holly and Michael's story. So that's how I actually got onto writing Mistletoe Mistress. So yes, it's odd because it was actually written after, I think, pretty much my 3 books in the first series. So I went back and read it. Yeah, but it was
Star Wars.
Exactly.
You're going backwards and forwards in time.
That's right. She's all about the time travel.
I am. In Australia, you have to be.
That's right.
But yeah, so it is, all of my books are standalone, so you can read them, independent of each other. But yeah, and this one, obviously, yes, because I wrote it last, but you can read it first because it does introduce Devlin, but you don't have to either. You can read it anywhere in the series. That's what I like. I love series that have the characters coming back, but you can also pick up wherever you want to, and you're not going to be lost. So
yes, I love that because I am not great at series. So I love when a book will end, but you might see the characters, in a different book. Yeah. Because that's just how I keep up as a reader. So I love that.
That's the best of all worlds, really. You can, as a standalone, and you can see the characters again. I love that. Brilliant. Why don't more people do that? We need to get everybody doing that.
Right? And then I have popped up on the screen. I know this was your first series, the Saints and Scoundrels series. Yeah. And that was in 2018.
I think so, yes. Yep. Yeah. So that started coming out then, with Entangled. Yeah.
Oh, with Entangled. Oh, neat.
Yeah. All my books currently are with Entangled, though I have signed up with Dragonblade, and I'll be writing for them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, get out. Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah.
So these were the
Exciting.
first. So what was the first book you ever published then?
This one, Devilish Duke.
Devil's
So,
Duke.
Okay.
Got it. Okay.
So that
Yes.
was the first one you wrote and the first one you published.
yes, that's
Yeah.
correct.
Wow.
And
Yeah,
I
it
know
was
sometimes
very-
that's different for writers on their journey. So
Yeah,
Mhm.
this was a labor of love. Like it's got a special place in my heart because I do love Devlin. He's a bit of a bad boy, and I like that.
He's definitely a standout in Mistletoe Mistress for sure.
yes, he is, which makes me want to go back and read The Devilish Duke because I'm
Yeah.
like, ooh, I like his whole vibe, so I need to read it.
Yeah,
Right.
so that was the first one, and then I signed with Entangled with that one, and they picked me up for a 3-book series, which is the 3 in that series. And
Wow.
then and they picked me up for another 3-book series, which was my second series, and then the third series. Yes, that's the second series.
Boy.
Secret Scandals and Spies series.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
The Bachelor Proposal, that's coming out in 2025.
It's been delayed. Yeah, it was
dear.
meant to be out last year, but then it's been delayed because they then got me to write the paperback series, the Heiress one. So,
Oh,
Which
that's
So-
exciting.
those
Oh,
ones seem so interesting. That's like the
Yeah.
Dollar Princess, which I always think is fun to read.
so it's so much fun. And this is the first 2 in these, they're cousins and they switch places. So yeah, the timeline for these ones, they happen concurrently at the same time. But I don't have any double up scenes so it was an interesting way of like how do I write these, because they happen at the same time, so I don't want to give away too much for each story in each. So it's good fun, these 2 I like.
What a fun like challenge too as a writer.
Okay, well then I have to ask, and if you can't tell us, we respect that. But for the 3rd book coming out in summer of 2025, which summer? Is it our summer or
your summer? Yeah.
Just to get our expectations regulated.
Exactly right.
I'm like, is it next month? What is it?
No. Entangled US publisher, so always
Okay.
Gotcha.
There you go. But now, is that one also happening at the same time?
No, this one is, I don't know if you've read the other 2, but Sam, he's featured in both, and this is his story. So this is after. Yeah. And the epilogue in The Heiress Masquerades hints at what Sam's story is going to be.
So. I love a good epilogue like that. Oh, yay. Oh, how fun. Yeah, I was able to get these just the other day, like literally this week. So I haven't had a chance to read them yet, but I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Megan actually said that she's also read The Devilish Duke and she loved it.
Oh, thank you, Megan. That's awesome.
It's always good to hear. I was going to ask you if you want to share a little bit about like just your writing journey and like, because I know you previously I read on your biography that like you were a police officer, which is very intriguing to come to be a police officer and then an author. We always like intriguing backstories, don't we?
Yes, we do.
We do. So I was a sergeant in the police here in Australia for 17 years. And most of that time I was a prosecutor and legal advisor. So I was in court arguing cases and providing legal advice, etc. And then I moved into a more education space the last couple of years in my career, which was really good fun. And then we ended up, my husband and I, who was a police officer too, so we retired from the police, moved up north coast of New South Wales, and which is how I've been able to now start writing. So that's full time. Like I was writing while I was in the police. So I've always wanted to be a writer though. But I suppose life and, getting a career came kind of first. And that's why though, all of my books have a thread of suspense and mystery through them. So I incorporate, kind of that part of my life that I love. I love the mysteries and solving who's the baddie, and I love when I'm writing, putting the little red herrings that you might not realize until you go back and you're like, oh, okay, that's how. And yes, I really like that. So
I definitely love a mystery subplot in a historical romance. It's always so much fun.
Yeah, we've been reflecting recently about how many historical romances, especially recently, have come out, and there's not a whole lot in the way of plot.
Yeah.
And they seem kind of formulaic. So we really, really extra appreciate when we're getting more meat on the bones of our plots. We love that.
Well, that's one of the most fun things I love about writing is actually when I sit down and I plot out my books. Like I try and, I tend to work backwards a bit sometimes. Like I'll know where it's going to end up. I've got to be like, okay, how am I going to get there? Who's the baddie? How am I going to make it not too obvious, but logical enough that you're like, oh, yes, that makes sense. So, yeah, so I love that plotting part of the journey of writing. It's my fave.
And your audience, like your big fans, when they see you at book signings and things, is that one of their favorite elements? Or like what seems to resonate the most with the people when you meet them?
Yeah, I think they love the characters. Like, they really like, because I like to write pretty kick-ass heroines. They're all very independent and, they like to push the norms of society back then. And obviously it's fiction, but, I like that sort of to incorporate that. Yeah, and like I love, like my heroes, they always have a lot of stuff going on in the background that's really formed and shaped who they are. So yeah, I think my readers, they love the characters and they do appreciate those little bits of plotting and some of them, most of them say I didn't guess who the baddie was. A few do, but most like that, the surprise at the end.
Yeah.
Who says that? I knew who it was. Good for you. Thank you for that.
Well, in a book, there's only so many. It's good when you can't figure it out. That's awesome.
Right. Oh my gosh. I love it so much. Did you see Megan's question too, Tara? Megan asked a great question.
Do you plan out your series before you start book one?
Not really. I have an idea in my head of the characters and I kind of know the like the secondary characters, and in my head I kind of think, they'll need a story too. So I don't actually pre-plot, okay, this is going to be book one, this will be book two, this will be book three. I tend to think more in terms of, okay, like for example, with this series, with The Bachelor Bargain, that the character Olivia in that, she was actually a secondary character for book two. And the main character in that, Caitlin Cat, I was actually going to write, I did pretty much write her book first, but then I realized, no, I need to actually set up the story a bit better in terms of they have what's called the Bachelor Bounty Gazette, and they anonymously dish the goss on all the rakes in town. Ooh. So, yeah. And so
I love it.
So this is more the story of Olivia approaching Sebastian, who's known as the bastard of Baker Street. He's an underworld figure. Yeah, he's quite a bad boy. And he's probably one of my favorites too, him and Devlin. But so with those, I kind of knew the characters. I had Kat in my head because she's a very strong character. Her uncle was a spy master, so he raised her. And so she has a lot of fighting skills. She's very unconventional for her time. So I knew her character. I knew she had two best friends, Livy and Etta. And I knew that they were going to each have a book as well. So, yeah, I don't really plot out each book or a series of books at the time. I just kind of know, okay, I think that, there's three main female characters that I love and I want to tell their stories. So I knew it would be a 3 kind of book series. And then there's usually other characters that come into the book that I think, oh, they need a book too. So it's on my list for other books to do.
Kind of like spirals the ideas.
It does. Yeah.
I love that. So, okay, so you said The Bachelor Bargain, the heroine was a secondary character in another book.
Yes.
But The Bachelor Bargain is the first book of the Secret
It
Scandals and
is.
Spies.
Yeah. So
So your series are interconnected then with Tara.
yes and no. So they're all standalone, but yes, they're connected because in the second book, Kat, her story is really more about finding her uncle's murderer. So an assassin. So so the Bachelor Bounty Gazette, which is that magazine that they have, that's more of a secondary thing. And I thought that needed a bit more of a focus initially in how it got set up. So I thought Livy's story is probably going to go best first rather than second. So so that's
I see. Gotcha. Okay. Wow. This is great.
Paige says she loves a good romantic suspense. The mystery suspense always keeps me so engaged in the story.
100%. Me too. Yeah, I love it when there's that subplot going on. So
yeah, me too. I need more.
The Elusive Earl, that is actually, I love that one. That I call, it's a cross between Pride and Prejudice and Romancing the Stone. So it's based on a real life lost treasure, the treasure of King Alaric. It was, he sacked Rome. Yeah, he sacked Rome, plundered their treasure. He and his army marched south through the Calabria region of Italy. And then he contracted some illness, they think, and he died. And the legend is his soldiers, so loyal to him, buried him, the treasure, and themselves somewhere underground in the Calabria region, or however they pronounce it. But yes, so the Italian government still to this day are looking for that treasure.
Wow.
Yes. And that I actually... I got that, like I had read about the Italian government searching for this treasure, and I thought, oh wow, because I knew Brianna, my character in The Elusive Earl, she was she loves relics and artifacts and all of this, and so I knew she was going to go on an adventure in search of this treasure. So it is a very different plot and setting because they're traveling through the Italian countryside. So I love that one. It's very good fun. It's it's
so cool. Indulge me for a moment, because what is that movie with Sandra Bullock and Channing Tatum?
Yes, that was based on
can we make a second one with you and it's Channing Tatum if you want? I mean, you would be perfect.
Cool.
Would that be so cool? They could go together, look for the treasure.
I know, right? Yeah,
I love funny.
Now I want to see that movie again.
I know, it's great. It's so good. So I love adventure movies and it's so much fun. So that's why I knew I had to do an adventure one in The Elusive Earl. So that one's good fun.
Now I need to read that. See, this is what we were just saying before we went live. TBRs and Terry, who's here right now. Terry and I were talking about TBRs never Lost City. Thank you, Kristen. Kristen always. Good job, Kristen. But TBRs never get smaller during the course of the year.
No.
Even though we've been reading all year long. No, they didn't get smaller.
In fact, mine just got bigger.
I know. And now there's the top of the stack, all the Maddison Michaels right there. Just added them. So exciting.
I feel like too, Holly, she has an interesting backstory too. And I love, like you said, you write strong heroines, and I really do think that she is a strong heroine too. And that comes across even in a novella.
Yeah, cool.
Which I know you said could probably, I would assume as being difficult to write a novella, because you kind of have to flesh out a story in so many words.
Yeah, it was. I did find that quite challenging because I'm used to having, a big subplot going on of the suspense tie-in and a lot more, I suppose, room to really, flesh out the characters and have, a lot of interaction. So I did have to think, okay, I really have to get to the main points of the book and their story in a very short, condensed time period. So it was a really good fun challenge for me though. And I think it came together quite well in the end with their story. So I was happy with how that went. So yeah.
Seriously, hats off to you, because I know, and everybody who's watching too, we've read a lot of novellas, because sometimes you love a little something shorter to sink your teeth into. And so frequently we're like, like the insta love or the insta lust, it's not believable. Like it was just, it suffers. Like I think a lot can suffer in a novella, and yours did not suffer. And just seriously, I think that's really, really hard. So really, seriously, hats off to you.
I love that they like knew each other previously when they were children too.
Yes.
Like that aspect is they already kind of have that built in. So I think that obviously would help in a novella too.
Definitely. And I think like when I was doing it, the characters tend to, it sounds a bit weird, but they do speak to me and they kind of let me know what their goal is and what they're doing. But I did kind of think in my head, they need to have known each other, so it does make it that little bit more, they're not just learning each other, and each other's quirks for the first time. They have that backstory. They have that already that attraction, so it just makes it a little bit more believable, I think, than like you said, Bea, that insta lust that really,
yeah.
Yeah.
Would you write another novella?
Yeah, look, I did actually plan to do her two sisters' stories after these as other novellas. I just haven't got around to it yet. So I will. What are you doing? So yeah, I do intend to write another 2 novellas as part of this little story.
What about Harold? Can Harold have his own? No. Just kidding.
I don't think so. I don't think I want to go there.
Dear sweet Harold, such a good husband.
I love that his name is Harold.
Oh, and is she Holly because this was a Christmas novella? I have to ask. Okay, I was like, it's a Holly.
I just connected that. Goodness.
Yeah.
Hi from Manchester. Ooh. And then Terry says, I love the lock picking. I did too. I thought that was unique.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's a hobby of mine, lock picking. So yeah. So I have lockpick sets and everything. So I knew I had to incorporate that into a couple of my characters because it's fun and it's like awesome.
It's a great skill to have, especially.
Have you ever needed to use it?
No.
That would be
That's good. I mean, if you locked yourself out or something.
I have to have my kid on me though, and I don't usually carry it.
Like, if only I had my kit.
I know. My character Kat, though, in book 2 of this series, she always carries her lockpicking kit on her because she's always up to no good and getting into things. So yes,
well, we love that.
I learned from my mistakes.
I love that she shared it with her dad. Like her dad, they would tinker together. I thought that was a really sweet aspect. And then she lost her dad. And then shortly after she lost her brother, and then she's like, well, what do I do now? After her uncle too.
That's right. Because particularly in that time period, women really did have to rely on their, usually their father or their brothers to live and survive. But she got that taken away. So she really had to come up with her own, okay, I've got my sisters to look after. How am I going to do this? So, she stumbled on this kind of employment and that's what she's been doing.
I loved it, though, that that's how she was able to basically survive, and help her sisters. I thought it was a unique aspect.
Michael's like, I should have known. Yeah, that was great. I
love Holly Michael's backstory. Me too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
that was so amazing.
I know. He has a heart of gold, Devlin. I love him.
When I read that and I was like, okay, I need to read the first one now.
Right? Oh my gosh, yes. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love it.
I know, I love that.
Very, very inventive. And and she had, at that time, there was no way she could be going around to balls or events on her
Mhm.
own if she didn't, if she wasn't a widow or didn't have
Yeah.
that husband. So I had to think, oh, okay, well, she needs to be able to get into these places. How's she going to do that? Because she couldn't as a single female back then, unfortunately. So
Yeah.
Yep.
Devlin was so good at pushing Michael's buttons. Yes. That helped him realize his feelings for Holly. He was a great matchmaker. He truly was. I loved that aspect. That, like, you didn't know that in the beginning, or at least I didn't, because this is my first read. But when I found that out when they're talking towards the end, I was like, oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah. He's wonderful, Devlin. What can I say? It's like,
And who doesn't love a good twist?
I fall in love with all my characters, the guys. I'm like,
so is Devlin then your favorite, would you say?
Ooh,
I know.
can you
I always ask this question, and authors hate it when I ask this question.
yeah, look, Devlin and Sebastian are probably my two favorites.
Okay, and remind us where Sebastian
So
is.
Sebastian's in The Bachelor Bargain. He's the king of the underworld. So he's got a really dark, very he's had a lot of trauma in his life, and just a lot of struggling to get to where he has. And yeah, I just love him because he's the sort of character. Some people might not love him because he will do whatever it takes to keep his loved ones safe. He will do whatever, So, but yeah, I love him. I do love him. He and Devlin, they're my two favorites. I shouldn't have favorites because they are all wonderful, but
Well,
it's hard not to.
I mean, I love a tortured hero, or like one.
Yeah, you do, Tara.
I do. So,
well, Devlin is tortured, yeah, but Sebastian is way more tortured.
Okay.
Tara's like, the more tortured, the better. Let's turn it up all the way to a level 10.
Sebastian is very tortured.
Oh
goodness.
Deborah says law enforcement down under is wild.
Right?
Is it?
Can be.
That is so fascinating. We had another gal on our show, an author, Lauren Smith. I don't know if you've ever crossed paths with her. I wouldn't just assume because you're both authors, but she's an independent author, I want to say.
I think so, yes.
But she was a lawyer, and she's not certified.
Mm-hmm.
What's the word? Certified. I'm going to say certified for lack of a better word. Someone's going to correct me, and thank you in advance. But in Canada and in the United States, like, she's double certified.
Wow.
She's been practiced law, but it sounds similar to you. While she was being a lawyer, as you can see, I have a lot of understanding about lawyers. No, she would be writing, and one day the judge was like, "Are you busy writing a novel over there?" And she goes, "Actually, yes." I would be fascinated to be in a room with you two, and see, like, what, based on your experiences, how that's, was there anything that's been in your career that sort of lent itself, like, it made its way into your stories, or can you say? I mean, yeah, I understand.
Not particularly. Just it probably will. I am looking at doing some contemporary suspense thrillers as well down the track. So it will probably make more of a impact on those stories as opposed to my historicals, because I suppose I'm just trying to think, has there been any sometime in some of the scenes with the I call them baddies. Sometimes their motivation stems from something I have, like briefs I've read or matters of some criminals that I have actually dealt with. So some of that has influenced that, but not to an extent in terms of cases, because it was more high-tech cases, and because I used to work with the cybercrime unit a lot and the child abuse unit. So it was like, stuff like that. It hasn't needed to come into my
But
no, I love I suppose that mystery, and that's why I joined the police in the first place. I wanted to be a detective, so because I loved Eve Dallas. Do you go Nora Roberts, her story, JD Robb? So I loved reading hers, and I was like, when I was in my early 20s, I thought, I want to join the police and I want to do that. So I did. And then I ended up, no, I actually want to argue in front of court. So I ended up going down that path rather than the detectives. But then I ended up working, I was the legal advisor with the State Crime Command. So that's all the big crime squads in New South Wales. So yeah, so I was advising them on their investigations. So I kind of got a bit of that aspect of it too. So.
And how did you, if you don't mind me asking, I know this is not book related, but how did you meet your husband then doing that? I'm so curious. I feel like that would make a great story.
It's what's called a college romance. We met down at the police college when we were recruits. So.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, he's my real life hero, you know, a 6'2", tall, dark, handsome man. So.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
I know, weapons trainer, like, you know. So actually, when I do have guns and stuff in my books, and even the old weapons, he has all that knowledge. So I ask him, would this be right? Would that be right? And so he gives me pointers for my books. So
that's awesome.
My husband he teaches technology, so I'm like, can I have help with my computer? Just as exciting.
Very helpful though.
Yes.
I know, I tell you. That is so cool though. I love it. I had to ask. I'm sorry. So cute. So cute. Oh my goodness.
Kristen said that'd be tough with TSA. I think she's a picking kit.
Oh.
Yeah, Terry says because you just need a hairpin.
Exactly. Although my heroine cat has all the little goodies in her little lockpick kit. So they used to have so many. That's why I love writing in the Victorian period as well. They had so many technological little advances and gadgets, and because I love gadgets and I love looking at, oh my God, they had these tiny little spy derringers that they could use as weapons. And it was really cool. So that's why I love, and also the dresses. The dresses are amazing.
Yes.
In the Victorian era.
These covers.
Yeah, the covers are stunning.
And that's
I know. They did a good job, didn't they, Entangled on the covers?
Oh,
yeah.
Do you have any say or choice in your covers, or how does that work?
So they will get a cover artist. They then send me a mock-up of it. If I really don't love it, then I can say something. Like for the Heiress Masquerade, they actually had a different couple on that one. Yeah. Oh. And it just, she had, not to be rude, but she had a really big nose, and like she looked very different to what my character Amy looked like. And so I said to them, look, I'm really not happy with the cover models that you guys have used. Yeah. And that was really the only one that I have really pushed back on because I really didn't like it. And they were very good. They came back and they said, well, here are a couple of choices for cover models. Who do you think? And so I said, okay, that one. And they went with that. So that was really good. I was happy for that. But yeah, pretty much everything else, like this one, The Bachelor Bargain, I love that one. But they actually had a completely different cover to begin with. They had it just a male, and he was a very good-looking guy on there. It was lovely with a bare naked chest and, you know, a sword. And it was really nice. But apparently when they did their research and they had some readers, I think, look at it, and they decided to go with a male and female cover model as opposed to just the male. So it's like, okay. So they changed it of their own accord. And I think they did a really good job. I really love the blues in that and everything. So I think that's really nice. But the only thing is with her hair, because Livy is a blonde, and her hair was even darker than that. And I was like, she's a blonde though. Like, and so they lightened it up as much as they could, but they left it at that. So I was like,
gotcha.
Okay. So
do you know what kind of color? Because we've got the blue, we've got the purple. Do we know what kind of color we're going to see in the proposal?
No, I have no idea. No idea. Maybe, I don't know, maybe a pink or a red or something. I don't know. We'll see.
Oh, I can't wait. How fun.
Terry says, I was the one suggesting the book, and I had such a good time rereading it, knowing what Devlin did. Oh, yes. Terry is the one who let us know
Thank you, Terry. That's awesome. I'm so glad you enjoyed it a second time too.
Yeah.
That's the best part of books, isn't it? Like when you can go back and read them again and you enjoy them again. And I love that. So, mind you, it doesn't help me get down my to be read pile.
Right?
Not at all.
Like, oh, I must read these again. What do you want to read though?
There we go. Oh, I love bright orange.
Terry's vote is bright orange. Oh goodness.
I love orange, actually. It's one of my favorite colors.
Yeah.
Wow.
Very pretty.
And then I know briefly on your website, I noticed you did the writer's nest. Is that like something to help writers?
Yeah, it's still, I'm a bit behind on all my schedule. But yeah, that is, I used to do, when I transferred over to education and training in the police, I was teaching senior police how to leadership and management skills and how to look at personality in terms of not only getting the best out of yourself, but getting the best out of your police officers and dealing with people out on the street. So it's about the writer's nest is really learning about the bird personality types and how you can use those as a writer, like to know, okay, whether you should look at maybe plotting or pantsing or, you know, the different styles of writing that might suit your personality a bit better. So it's it's a nonfiction kind of how-to guide, and as well as how you can use the personality types to help bring out stuff in your characters as well. So so that's that one. And I will be doing a police like for writers, how to write authentic police, you know, actual jargon and what actually goes on, as much as I can say. There's a few things I can't say, but so that will be coming out shortly too. So
I'm sure that will be helpful for writers too, because I feel like too, like as readers, they want it to be authentic as possible. Because sometimes, you know, when you're reading something and you might be a police officer and you're reading it and you're like, that doesn't make sense. Yeah, you know, that's not how that would work.
Exactly.
I know my husband does that for movies. He's in the military, and anytime he sees something,
you would know. Yes.
Yeah, he's like,
and then they always have their finger on the trigger rather than. Like, you know, hubby and I are always like, I wouldn't do that.
Oh my goodness.
Same for teachers too. Like when you see all the desks are just in rows and everyone's quietly sitting and the teacher's in the middle of this beautiful lecture and then the bell rings and they're like, oh, I didn't even notice. Nobody even noticed. I'm like, that is not how it happens.
Not reality.
No. And I do think readers appreciate a bit of actual, you know, like true, like the author. If you're going to be talking about stuff that's happening, you know, you want to try and get that as on point as you can. Even though it is fiction, there's a bit of leeway for things. You do still want to try and get it as accurate as you can with certain things. So
sure, absolutely.
Terry had a question. She said, what is bird personality?
So bird personalities, there are 4 main types of bird personalities. So it's a DOPE is the acronym, DOPE. So you have the doves, you have an owls, you have the peacocks, and you have eagles. So they're not that everyone fits directly into one personality. You often have a few combinations, but usually, I'm sorry if you can hear my dog in the background.
It's okay.
She's but yeah, so the bird personalities, like for instance, a peacock, they're usually very socially outgoing and love chatting, love being involved with people, all that sort of thing. Whereas doves are more like they're very good team players. They love being part of the team, you know, they like being given instructions and, you know, they're very good, like go along with working, they'll do things. Whereas eagles are very direct, you must do this, you must do that. So in the police, you do get a lot of eagle personality types because they're very used to commanding a situation. And then you have the owls that are very, they love logic and reason and order. And, you know, they will read manuals from front to cover to back. That's me. I'm a bit of an owl type. So I always read the manuals. I love the manuals.
I hear you. Yes.
So yeah, so the bird personalities, you can, you know, have and they change like depending on the situation you're in. Like say with my daughter, I can be very much an eagle sometimes. And say, you must do this, you need to do this. So, you know, and you know, depending on the situation, you might, you know, be very comfortable in a group setting and you're very outgoing and peacock type behavior. Whereas in a new group setting, you might be a lot more like a dove, just hanging back, just watching the group. And, you know, so yeah, so that's what the bird personalities are. You can actually look it up. I think if you search bird personalities or DOPE, that comes up. So there are some online quizzes you can do. So it's good fun.
Neat.
Yeah.
I've never heard about this. It's very intriguing.
Yeah. There's some like I think disc personalities. Have you heard that one? That's more common in like business environments, the disc personality system. But the bird one, it's actually a kind of copyright free kind of developed for everyone to be able to use. So yeah.
Okay. Neat.
Teresa, thank you for explaining. I've never heard about bird personalities.
Yeah.
Same with Vi. Yeah, it's very intriguing.
Yeah, we love to do that with, I think, what is it, like INTJ or whatever those are, the letters, and people take them, and then you get to know everybody either in your team or like my husband and I will take things and like, oh,
yeah.
Now I understand you. I love doing those kind of quizzes online. Those are that's so funny. Oh, my sister just read, she started reading the Harry Potter series recently, and she's like, what house are you? And it's so funny because like, you are very late to the party, my dear. Like, it's just like, we need to talk about what house you are. Just like, okay.
Oh, it's such a good series though, isn't it? I love it. So I'm watching the Harry Potter Bake Off thing at the moment. They've got a baking. But they're making all these majestical cake creations and dessert. It's amazing what some of them are doing. So yeah.
I love it. All those baking shows that come out around the holidays. We've been watching Is It Cake on Netflix.
Me too.
My 8-year-old son is obsessed. We watched the holiday ones and now he's watching all of the series.
Yeah.
He's just like, he just goes around the house. Is it cake? Is it cake?
And you're like, none of it is.
None of it. Yeah. And my sister found somebody on Instagram who makes everything that looks like, and then she takes bites out of it. And it is, my 8-year-old was like, this is too much.
It's amazing what they can create though, isn't it? You're like, all that effort though, I wouldn't want to eat it because it's so beautiful. It's like,
I'd be like, no one touch it. And she's just taking bites out of it. Good grief.
I like the ones where they'll make it like either light up or spin, and you're like, how?
I know. It's quite incredible.
Yeah.
There's so much talent in the world, isn't there?
Yes.
I love that. Now, you mentioned your daughter. I saw on Instagram that she's actually gone with you to some of the book signings. Is that right?
Yeah, she's been my little assistant. So yeah,
Does she want to be a writer when she grows up?
Possibly. She's actually, from when she was really little, like about 5, she started writing stories. So yeah, she loves writing. She's not much of a reader though. I'm so disappointed. I know. I don't know what happened. My husband's not much of a reader, so I think she gets it from him. So I know. She has read the Harry Potter series though, and she is reading Hunger Games. She likes like dystopian kind of things. But yeah, I'm failing as a mummy that she's not.
You just never know. You just never know what your kids
Exactly. I am forever hopeful. At least my niece, who is only 6 months older than my daughter, who's like a second daughter to me, she loves reading. So it's excellent. She's right into reading. And yeah, she can't read my books just yet. She's a little bit young still.
Yeah.
I got together with one of my girlfriends who she's not a reader either. She's like, I just like nonfiction because otherwise you're wasting your time. And I was like, okay, all right, I'm not gonna argue. That's fine. Okay. But anyway, she was like, her teenage daughter, she goes, oh, yes, Fourth Wing. She's reading that. I'm like, are you sure that's a good idea? Maybe we should look at something other than nonfiction just to see. Because I think, she was like already talking about Iron Flame and everything. I'm like, I don't know. I want to look.
Yeah, well, that's the thing though, isn't it? Because a lot of non-reader parents and their kids are readers, they have no idea what they're reading. So it's
Yeah.
like, oh,
Right?
yeah.
Yes.
Sometimes I'll be in the bookstore and I'll see teenagers and I'm like, well, you probably should not be reading that.
Yes.
Where's your parent?
Yes. Yes. That happened to me too. I was at Barnes and Noble and I was literally, because I was looking at for certain books, I was literally stepping over. I mean, they were fine with it, but I was stepping over teenagers that were like lying on the floor just reading these books. I'm like, what is happening right now?
I mean, it could be worse, I guess.
Right. And I'll have them talk to me. They'll message me on my channel and they'll be like, is this appropriate for a 14-year-old? I'm like, no. Thank you for asking. No.
Yeah.
Usually nothing I read is.
I mean, a few of the things.
One or two. Just kidding.
That's right. That's right. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh my. So what's on the horizon for you then? Obviously, you're going to be doing.
Yes.
Sorry.
Well, I've got to finish like the 2 books with Entangled. I'm still under contract for. I've signed a new contract with Dragon Blade, so I'm doing a 3-book historical mystery series. So it will have romance, but it's called Magic, Mischief, and Mayhem, the series. So it's the heroine in the book. She has a bit of a tragic past. All my characters tend to, but gives good backstory. It gives good,
yes.
But she grew up with her father was a renowned magician in the Victorian era. So she is also, and she was taught from the cradle how to do magic tricks. So she started her own agency filled with other people with special skills in terms of investigating, like private investigators. So that's her thing. But what's happened is a prominent figure is murdered, but it's with like magician kind of like the way it's set up is a magic trick. It's an illusion. So the investigator, who's a Scotland Yard detective, he's a younger son of an earl. So he's a bit of the black sheep of the family, being in Scotland Yard. But he needs because her father actually made this trick famous that this person's been murdered with. So he suspects potentially something to do with her and gets her involved, and she actually starts helping him in terms of finding who is the murderer. So so that's going to be that. She's the start of that series. And then there's going to be the second book will be the heroine is her father was an art forger, so she's kind of specializes in detecting those. And then the third one, I haven't worked that one out yet, but they're called Jack of Hearts, I think it's the Ace of Spades, and then the King or Queen of Diamonds, something like that. So so they're all going to be illusion, kind of magic, kind of like maybe a bit of an Ocean's 11 vibe in some of them, but Victorian and mysteries and stuff. So
I love that.
This is so fun. I'm so excited. Great. And it seems so. Is Victorian then your prime, like your prime
it
time?
Is the historicals, just because there's so much more leeway. Like it's a very big period too. It's from the 1830s right up till just the start, really, of the early 1900s. So there's a lot of timing in there, and towards the latter part of the 1800s, there was a lot of innovation and technology. They were starting to have running water and bathrooms. They had telephones. They had, they were starting to have, in a way, like automobiles. They had, so there was a lot of stuff going on. And women also had a little bit more freedom. They were starting to have a little bit more freedom. So, and there were a lot of women, from the middle classes that were allowed to work. They could ride their bicycle to work. They had that freedom to do that. So it just gives me as an author a little bit more room to play around with and give them a little bit more scope to actually go out and investigate things, or go and, get up to mischief like they like to. So it's that's what I love. Like, the Regency is cool, but it's a very limited period. I'm not a fan of the dresses particularly. I love the big ball gowns. But I just think it's and it was a lot more restricted in what you could and couldn't do, like a lot more proprietaries, and the same earlier on too in the period. So that's why I quite like the Victorian era, because it gives me that leeway, but it also encompasses that magic of, being in history, being, a different world, and getting to time travel back to that time and place in history. That's what I love about writing Victorians. So yeah. So I'll tend to stick with that for my historicals that I do.
I love that. Wasn't it Kate Bateman the other day that said she was like, they kept saying like Regency, you need Regency. She's like, there's other time periods.
Yeah.
So. Absolutely. And I just think I'm surprised that and maybe that Georgette Heyer, she wrote in the Regency, and she was like the queen of romance initially. Like, so I don't know if that really shaped the books and being in that period. Jane Austen, Regency, so a lot of that I think stems from that past. But when you actually look at all what is available to research and what actually happened, the Victorian period to me is so much more interesting, because so many things happen, the telegram, like just so much invention. They started using, actually being able to create with rubber. They used to, that's how we got, tires and, other items that they use in the bedroom. So it's rather than the sheepskins, they actually were using actual rubber. So it was actually much more effective for contraception. So yeah, so
I thought you were talking about tires at first. I literally was.
Yeah, but I that myself.
Oh my. Okay.
I do see a lot of our friends over here are excited about historical mysteries, so that's exciting. Yes. And then Megan had a lovely question. She said, have you or would you ever write a historical set in Australia?
Oh, look, I probably wouldn't, because we are so young. Like, like our historicals, I mean, yes, the late 1800s, like where I do set them, but it was very, I suppose we didn't have the infrastructure like they would have had in London with, it was very basic, in terms of setting up Australia and colonizing it. So it didn't really start, I suppose, developing beyond convicts until, the earlier 1900s. So when it really started, taking off a bit. So I do have a lot of writing friends from Australia that love to write in the Australian period. But for me, I probably wouldn't. Having said that, I can never say never, because maybe I will. Maybe the characters will say, we need our story written, so who knows? They knock sometimes and say, hey, write me. So, but yeah, I don't think so. I think I love Europe and England, just because they had that set up in terms of the different societies, the different, social aspects. I think that's more where I tend to gravitate towards. So,
Terry says, I always find it interesting when a story is set at the dawn of a new technology like trains, telegraph, typewriter, bicycles, automobiles, etc.
I agree. Like and that's why I love writing in the Victorian era, because you can incorporate those things into it, and it can make it really interesting, the stories.
Yeah.
Like my second series, that is set in the 1880s. And yes, that incorporates, she's on trains, fighting people, Cat, in the second book. Like, she has hidden weapons. She has in her, because her being brought up by a spy master, and she's been taught Eastern fighting techniques, the dresses and the petticoats get in the way of fighting for her. So she's actually had some custom-made skirts created using studs, and studs were actually available in the I think it was 60 something. Actually, are my books, sorry, I might be getting confused with when they're set. I think my newest ones are in the 1890s. 1885. No, I'm correct. So the studs were created in Germany, and so I've incorporated those. That was actually what she was able to use to quickly open the skirts to enable her, because she wears pants underneath her dresses. So I had to think, well, what can I do? So I had to research when the studs were created and could she use that, etc. So, and I couldn't have done that if the book had been set earlier in the period, because they didn't have that technology available. They hadn't created that. So, so I have great fun with researching what was available and, what could they do and what could they use. Like even in The Elusive Earl, there's a special satchel that's been used that is waterproof, and that was actually created because of the rubber able to be created, and these were real life satchels that they were able to create. So if it had been set a little bit before, I couldn't have used them because they weren't invented. So I needed something to keep it dry in water, and so I was able to do that by incorporating because I researched the rubber inventions back then. So so I love technology.
I just love it. I love it. Wouldn't that be the coolest cover though? Like a woman looking like super badass, and she's got her pulling it apart, and you got the pants.
I know.
That would be so cool.
I would love if they made my second series into some, movies or telemovies, because they would rock. Kat is such a badass. Like, I love her. She's
I love it. I love it.
Megan. She also said there's no Australian treasure hunt to go on like in Italy. No,
unfortunately, no. We have bush rangers, so that's like our Ned Kelly with a bush ranger. He was used to hold up hold up some stagecoaches, but no, that's about all. We don't really have any great history like they do over in Europe and stuff. So
yeah.
Terry says you have shirts that are called secret pants that were used for bicycling.
Yes. Isn't that cool? I love that about history, that, you can find out stuff and research things. Yeah. And they would have needed them because, it would have been so like you couldn't have ridden properly with a skirt back then.
No. No. Because you think about, I always think of having to ride astride, on a horse even, ugh. I was like, that does not sound comfortable at all.
I can't imagine. It's not.
Oh dear. But I do love history. It's good fun. It's I wish there was a time machine that we could just quickly pop back, not to live there because some of the conditions wouldn't have been great, but imagine being able to go back just and have a peek. That'd be so cool.
Yeah. Oh, truly. Well, and that's why we love books like yours, because it's like we get to. And we don't have to worry about catching any things that they got for.
We can fall in love. We can go on adventures. We can, it's brilliant. That's one of the best parts of reading. It's magical. Transports you, to a place, and it's perfect. Yeah.
It is.
Definitely.
It is. I love it. I love it.
Oh, you'll button up for something.
Clever. Yeah. Yeah. That's right. So you stay, nicely dressed and, keeping up with proprieties.
That is so fascinating.
Do you have any signings or anything like that coming up, or?
I've got a couple next year in Australia though, so I will hopefully come across to America one time and organise some signings to coincide with that. So that might be on the cards for next year. Sometimes I'll have a look, or maybe 2026. So yeah.
Awesome.
So fun.
Yeah.
I'll even be here before we know it. This year's gone by so quickly.
I can't believe how quickly this year's flown. It's crazy. So
yes. I feel like, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like it's 2020 and we're 4 years later. I was like,
what? How did that happen? Yeah.
I know.
Just like that flu.
Yeah, it has.
Yeah.
So we've been on chatting for about an hour, and I don't want to keep you any longer than I know you have a whole day ahead of you.
She's gonna have breakfast.
Yes, I do.
Yeah. Coffee.
Yeah.
So, unless anybody has any quick questions or anything you'd like to add, we've just enjoyed talking to you and having you on. It's been, we're just so grateful that you said yes.
I am so grateful that you asked me. I've had a blast. I really enjoyed myself. So thank you. You guys have been awesome.
Oh, and we're just so excited to dive into your backlist even more. Truly.
Yeah. I can't wait for you to as well. So,
yeah, it's going to be great.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on a Monday morning. Yeah.
Happy to come on.
Hopefully we made it a little bit less of a Monday feeling.
It's been a perfect start to the week. It's excellent.
Oh,
It's going to set the best time. So yeah.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you for having me, guys. It's been wonderful. I've really appreciated it.
Thank you.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and it takes always a minute when I end it.
We like to wave
So
awkwardly.
we wait for a little bit longer.